here in the practical theology section is written by Mabio Coelho Neto, and he is a PhD student at Andrews University. He comes to us with a background in engineering. So we see this at times. I could name several people that have made this kind of transition. So Mabio, thank you very much for being here, and we welcome you and look forward to your paper.
When I saw the call for papers and the theme, like, is the great controversy still like valid? Basically, that's how I understood. I started to think for my own position, not only as a PhD student, but also as a pastor. I'm a local pastor at the Michigan Conference. And I started to see how one's position in that question affects even the way you preach. And I started to think, like, how to appropriately answer those questions, because I saw all sorts of excuses not to use it or to use it, like in our speaker last night, I'm trying to remember his name. Tanstead, thank you. He did a very good job in like preempting all the four of the 5 games. He actually just missed one, and I was hoping he was addressing that on his paper. That's why I didn't address on mine. But I'm gonna just mention briefly before I start, because also that's important. There's those that are against that whole paradigm of the great controversy, because they conflate the great controversy with belligerence, with war, with like violence, and they see it as a justification to violence and a justification for those holy wars that we see around the globe and through history. And I think that's far from the truth. But with all that on the background, so many religious traditions, they use the image of this cosmic fight between good and evil to represent the basic struggle that underpins human life and spiritual beliefs. Within Christianity, this motif encapsulates in the concept of the great controversy, a story that spans from Satan's pre-creation fall to the book of Revelation's anticipated end times. It is a theme that has evolved via biblical texts, theological discussions, and eschatological ideas throughout Christian history. The Seventh-day Adventist tradition in particular has elaborated on this notion, viewing it not just as a backdrop for the entire biblical narrative, but also as a prism through which to see the world's history and future. This article investigates how Christianity perceives and expresses the great controversy motif. It's a very brief survey, as well how the great controversy aspects may be found in many civilizations and cultures throughout history. And the thesis of this paper is that the great controversy framework is not only one of the best ways to read scripture missionally and apologetically, but it also provides a powerful contact points to reach young and old in today's generation, particularly in the digital arena, thus remaining missiologically and hermeneutically relevant for us today. In order to gain a comprehensive understanding of the great controversy theme, it's necessary to undertake a journey including ancient texts, theological debate, and experimental faith of the adherents. This great controversy has a significant influence in the Christian conceptions of the character of God, the nature of evil, the meaning of human existence, and the final conclusion of our universal strife. The present exploration commences by summarizing the historical and biblical underpinnings of the theme, tracing its origins from ancient prophetic texts to to its substantial development in early Christian theological thought. The great controversy theme is prominently evident through Judeo-Christian writings, with its initial manifestations traceable to the Hebrew scriptures. References like Isaiah 14, 12 to 15, and Ezekiel 28, 12 to 17 include indirect references to an ancient uprising in the celestial domain, depicting a character commonly associated with Lucifer, assuming a position of opposition and rebellion against God. As the conflict reaches earth, mankind is duped into siding with Satan, and God's rescue mission begins with the first messianic prophecy in Genesis 3:15. From this moment on, the whole biblical story revolves either directly or indirectly around this cosmic conflict. Throughout the Hebrew Bible, a more elaborate concept of the conflict is built book by book until the end. And I don't elaborate a lot on that, but you can see on the footnotes where you get the rest. The narrative mentioned above finds further elaboration in the intertestamental literature in books such as the Book of Enoch. This particular text, for example, it provides a detailed account of the downfall of the Watchers, a group of angels who violated the divine bounds. Those passages establish the foundation for further exploration of the subject in the New Testament, namely in apocalyptic visions found in the book of Revelation, but also a lot of Paul's imagery is also taken from those texts. In this book, the book of Revelation, the cosmic conflict reaches its pinnacle as the armies of God engage in a decisive battle against the dragon, who is identified as Satan or the devil. The great controversy motif holds important implications within the context of Christian theology. This framework offers a conceptual structure for comprehending the genesis of evil, the reasons for suffering, and the imperative nature of divine judgment. Ecclesiologically, it casts the church as a community caught up in this great narrative, called to witness and to participate in the unfolding resolution of the conflict. So it's a call to action. From the soteriological perspective, the mission of Jesus Christ is portrayed as a significant intervention within the context of a cosmic conflict, providing redemption to humanity that has experienced a state of moral decline, and placing Jesus as the center of this cosmic controversy throughout Scripture. And the emergency and evolution of the great controversy theme within the realm of early Christian theology has a notable importance. The motive is intertwined to religious notions of the dichotomy between good and evil, light and darkness, the presence of sin and the possibility of redemption, and the final triumph of Christ over the opposing powers of darkness. The New Testament in particular, and particularly the Gospels and the book of Revelation, has sections that depict the cosmic conflict between God and Satan, the utilization of personalization to depict Satan as the formidable opponent, and the embodiment of evil is a pivotal component within that framework of this narrative. Church fathers, including notable figures such Origen, that basically argue from the Bible the validity of such claims against the people that were combating that vision, and people like Augustine. They exerted significant influence in the development of Christian theology and made notable contributions to this concept. Augustine's perspective upon the concepts of original sin and free will as expounded in the literary works Confessions and Seat of God, established a theological framework that underscored the inherent tension between the flawed condition of mankind and the bestowal of divine grace. The Seat of God represents an early example of a historical philosophy offering valuable insights into the cosmic conflict. In addition to its status as one of the oldest comprehensive theological frameworks, this work also serves as a pioneering exploring of the philosophy of history. Moreover, it expands the conceptualization of the cosmos, offering a more comprehensive explanation that transcends the realm of human beings on their own salvation. And what's the Adventist contribution to this before we get to the most important part? The Great Controversy team has been significantly advanced by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which has established during the late 19th century. During the mid-1840s, Joseph Bates initiated the first advancements in the theological framework, known as the Great Controversy among the Adventists. I don't know how many of you know, but he actually put together almost as we have today the doctrine of the Great Controversy just by the Bible. And the book, The Great Controversy, penned by Ellen White, a prominent figure among the founders of the church, has a tremendous impact on Adventist theology and in the formation of its identity. The theme is seen as essential for the understanding of the broader context of salvation, the role of the church, and the character of God. The Great Controversy has eschatological impact in Adventist readings of the end-time prophecies, hence emphasizing the significance of the second coming of Christ. According to Hanko Stefanovich, Adventists consider the book of Revelation and Daniel to be significant prophet scriptures that offer valuable understanding into the concluding phases of this cosmic war, ultimately resulting in the victory of righteousness over wickedness. The Seventh-day Adventist interpretation of the Great Controversy theme offers a unique framework for comprehending the cosmic conflict between good and evil. This viewpoint has significant theological and practical ramifications for the church, impacting teaching, worship, lifestyle, and ministry. Adventists find a meaningful framework for their beliefs and activities by placing human history and personal experience within that cosmic narrative, emphasizing the significance of reflecting God's character and contributing to the end of this great conflict. So, how popular culture has seen this? The recurring idea of a cosmic war between opposing forces of good and evil is an enduring and pervasive theme that has been present in human culture and narrative traditions for countless ages. This section examines the development and manifestations of this motive through popular culture, starting with renowned works of classical literature, such Milton's Paradise Lost and Goethe's and Faust, and the extending to the contemporary film blockbusters like Star Wars. The examination of the Great Controversy motif unveils the perennial appeal and its capacity to resonate with the human condition, expressing our most profound anxieties and aspirations and ethical dilemmas. The epic poem Paradise Lost by John Milton is a famous literary work that examines the Great Controversy theme. It describes Satan's fall, the rebellion against God, as well the repercussions of the disobedience for humanity. The poem addresses serious concerns regarding the free choice, the essence of evil, and the possibility of redemption. And why I'm including this? Since that's a religious text. However, back when it was written, if you are a teenage boy or girl, that's what we were reading, because that became so popular that influenced an entire generation. Moving forward in history, And now entering in a more secular modern era, the narrative of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Faust, and 1808, a significant work of German literature, serves as an exemplification of the cosmic conflict motif. And again, if you research the culture of that time, that was one of the most read books for like young adults. Like on that time, almost all young adults, regarding of their literacy level, they would either read or sit up like in a discussion groups that somebody could read for them. So that became very popular. And the narrative of Faust, in which the contractual agreement is formed between the protagonist and the malevolent entity known as Mephistopheles, explores the complex interplay between moral righteousness and malevolence, the allure of temptation and the potential for spiritual redemption. According to Julie Brandy, God's literary opus is characterized by its exploration of ethical dilemmas faced by individuals and the profound universal consequences that arise from those decisions. As the 20th century unfolded, literature underwent an evolution that prompted the cosmic conflict motive to undergo adaptations in response to emerging cultural settings. C.S. Lewis' literal work, The Chronicles of Narnia, and J.R.R. Tolkien's renowned novel, The Lord of the Rings, became the next blockbusters, serving as prominent illustrations in the field. The aforementioned literary works encapsulate a profound conflict between forces of righteousness and evil, operating within a vast and legendary framework. This narrative skillfully includes symbolic representations of ethical and spiritual concepts. Within a more secular perspective, William Golding's novel, Lord of the Flies, dives into the great controversy motif by telling the story of a group of young boys marooned on a deserted island. And as the scenario deteriorates into chaos and aggressiveness, it depicts the microcosms of the ongoing fight between societal order and primitive instincts, morality and evil. And movies, commonly used as a form of commonly used a form of the cosmic conflict leitmotif when audiovisual technology became practically ubiquitous in the late 20th century. Nowadays, people don't read books in school any longer. They watch movies. I'm serious. I have a teenage daughter, so like before she reads a book, she used to go to see if there is a movie about it. So they go to the movies instead. That's today's Cliff Notes. The film franchise, the theme of the great cosmic controversy had a surge in popularity and become front and center on in cinematography those days, with the George Lucas Star Wars trilogy commencing in 1977. The film franchise Star Wars served as a quintessential representation of the overarching motif of a cosmic conflict between opposing forces of light and darkness. Lucas made a deliberate use of Joseph Campbell's notion of the monomyth, or the hero's journey, which resonates with an overarching theme of the cosmic war. And if you never heard about this, what monomyth is basically somebody extrapolate the basic elements of what make us tick and that ethical conflicts, and wrote like in a cookbook for movie writers, like how to write a successful blockbuster. The series depiction of the Force as a mystical and pervasive entity underscores the universality of this conflict. the cosmic conflict motif's prevalence in popular culture throughout the ages can be linked to its psychological and cultural relevance. It addresses basic human questions regarding morality, free choice, existence of evil, and why I'm here. According to Carl Jung's views on the archetypes and the collective unconscious, such stories appeal because they connect with deeply entrenched symbols and narratives that we have within ourselves. And going beyond what Jung says, I believe the Bible offers a greater explanation of why that resonates so much with us. It's because that's the way God created us. With our basic moral values and knowledge of Him, which He conveys to us, to our conscience, as Paul says in Romans 2, and also Solomon says in Proverbs 20. And also because of profound desire of eternity, as Solomon says in Ecclesiastes. So, how we tie this all together? If in literature, religion, and culture, the great controversy continues to be a rich source of inspirations for exploring basic concerns of morality, spirituality, and the human condition. Let me give a little parenthesis. If those movie guys that spend millions of dollars keep using that framework to evangelize their message, why should not we? And it's an effective narrative tool for studying the unending struggle between good and evil, as well as the decisions and consequences that define our world. The great controversy meta-narrative provides a compelling framework for explaining biblical truth and packaging its message in an accessible and appealing manner. It shifts the emphasis from disconnected truths, like 28 Bible studies, and once you know that, you're done, to a set of connected realities that involve each individual in a personal level. The conflict is not around you, it's inside of you, and you are part of it. And we have the option of partnering with God in the construction of a new humanity while we wait the realization of His upcoming kingdom. It also provides a feeling of significance and belonging, since we may engage the biblical story from both cognitively and emotionally via the great controversy lenses. God created us with a thirst for eternity. Consequently, as a church, we must structure our outreach and teaching within the context of the great controversy. People respond positively when we communicated biblical truth through the prism of the cosmic conflict. And this is because the framework provides an expansion of reality with incredible explanatory power. It explains almost all the big questions people make in life. But not only by that, not only by explaining evil, but also to give people hope by understanding that they have a loving Father, a loving God, who is soon coming to make our wrongs right, as Jesus Himself enlists us to be partners with Him, to build a new humanity, and to begin to grow His kingdom now while we wait for Him. This can bring an integrative perspective to our message, because tie all our doctrines together. And in a way, that can bring an integrative perspective for our message as we communicate prophecy, doctrine, and anything else biblically. When we do it in a way that through the cosmic conflict motif, we can show a lovable and loving Jesus who is very much invested in my own personal victory today and in the world to come, bringing meaning to those that are seeking for meaning. And if you read anything for today's generation, that's all of us. This brief study demonstrates the significance of the great controversy meta-narrative in culture and religion, as well as the fact that it provides a powerful contact points to reach both young and elder people in the current generation, retaining both missiological and hermeneutical relevance for the church today. To successfully communicate in this digital age, we must rethink our media, our message, to make a greater use of that cosmic conflict meta-narrative in an explanatory and integrative manner. And as a result of that, my plea is that more time and energy is spent to how we can effectively wrap our doctrines, our preaching, and both for the pulpit, on the local churches, on our schools, and on the public evangelism, of how to make this thing appeal to a generation today that's looking for the answers of those big questions.